There are places in the world where old magic still sleeps, places where the boundary between what is and what was grows thin as morning mist, places smart people avoid. The Shadow Pine Forest was one of those places. Cale Thornwood knew the stories. Everyone in Ashford knew the stories. The forest that whispered secrets to those who listened too long. The trees that moved when you weren't watching. The paths that led deeper than any map suggested possible. Tales of hunters who walked in at dawn and stumbled out at dusk 3 weeks later, claiming only minutes had passed. Stories of voices that called your name in your mother's voice, your lover's voice, voices of the dead begging you to follow. Every child in Ashford grew up hearing one rule repeated like a prayer. Stay out of Shadow Pine Forest. Cale walked into it anyway. Not because he was brave. Brave men had choices. Cale had a sister burning with fever that had lasted 6 days. Now a healer who'd shaken her head and said the only thing that might save her was silverleaf root and moonshade blossom, and both grew in only one place within 100 miles. Mira was 11 years old. She liked to draw pictures of birds she'd never seen, made up stories about kingdoms under the sea, and laughed at Kael's terrible jokes even when they weren't funny. 3 days ago, she'd stopped laughing. 2 days ago, she'd stopped recognizing him. Yesterday, she'd stopped opening her eyes. The healer had given her maybe 2 days, maybe less. So Cale stood at the forest's edge at dawn, pack on his back, knife at his belt, fear sitting in his throat like a stone. The trees ahead looked darker than they should. Older. The kind of old that made you understand why ancient peoples had carved gods from wood and prayed to forests. Behind him, Ashford was waking, smoke rising from chimneys. The smith's hammer beginning its daily rhythm. Normal life for normal people who had normal problems that didn't require walking into cursed forests. Cale stepped across the boundary. The forest swallowed him whole. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Not quiet. Silence. The kind of complete absence of sound that made your ears ring from the nothing. No birds, no insects, no wind through branches, just his footsteps on needles thick as carpet and his own breathing too loud in his skull. The second thing he noticed was the light. It was wrong. Dawn should have been breaking through the canopy, creating those cathedral rays that made forests look holy. Instead, the light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Diffuse, sourceless, making it impossible to tell which direction was which. Third thing, the trees were watching him. Cale wasn't superstitious, didn't believe in forest spirits or tree gods or any of that old world nonsense. But he felt it anyway. The weight of attention from things that predated human understanding of what attention meant. He kept walking, east he hoped, toward the deep forest where rare plants grew in shadows so complete even noon looked like twilight. Hours passed. Maybe. Time felt negotiable here. His pocket watch said it had been 3 hours, but his body insisted it had been 10 minutes. Or 3 days, hard to tell. Then he heard it, breathing, human breathing. The kind that happened when someone was trying very hard not to make sound, but pain made silence impossible. Shallow, controlled, desperate. Cale had heard breathing like that before, when his father was dying of the wasting sickness, when he'd found a wolf in one of his traps caught for 2 days more dead than alive, when he was 8 and fell from the barn roof lying there with cracked ribs trying not to cry because crying meant moving and moving meant agony. The sound came from the north. His path led east. It wasn't his problem. Wasn't his concern. He had maybe 30 hours to find the medicine and get back to Mira. Every minute mattered. He turned north anyway. Couldn't help himself. His mother had always said his compassion would kill him someday. Looked like today might be that day. The breathing got louder as he pushed through undergrowth that hadn't been disturbed in decades. The forest here felt ancient, not old, ancient. The difference between a grandfather and a god, the trees were massive, wider than houses, roots that created caverns in the earth, trunks that disappeared into canopies so thick it might as well be night. And in the center of a clearing that felt sacred in a way that had nothing to do with human religion stood the largest tree Cale had ever seen. There was a girl tied to it. No, not a girl, an orc, every muscle in Cale's body locked. Primal recognition of predator, of enemy, of the thing that had burned his uncle's farm, killed his grandfather, destroyed entire villages in the Northern Territories just 3 years ago. She hung from ropes thick as his wrist wrapped around the tree trunk and her body. Arms pulled back at angles that looked wrong, legs barely touching ground. She'd been there long enough that the ropes had cut into green skin, leaving dark stains on leather armor that was more holes than leather. Her head hung forward, long black hair covering her face. But she was alive. That breathing, that desperate, controlled breathing, came from her. Kael's hand moved to his knife. Instinct, training, survival. You see an orc, you run or you fight. Those were the only options. Those had always been the only options. Then she lifted her head. The look she gave him wasn't what he expected. Not rage, not the feral aggression every story warned about. What Kael saw in those dark eyes was something far more dangerous. Hope. Please. Her voice came out cracked, raw. How long had she been here without water? Please, you human. You understand mercy, yes. The accent was thick. Orcs spoke with sounds that came from deeper in the throat. Words that required more breath. Grammar structured like common was a poorly learned second language. I understand, Kael said slowly, that walking away from tied-up orcs is usually the smart move. Smart, yes. She nodded, winced at the movement. But you still here, still listening. That means something, I think. It means I'm probably an idiot. Was that a smile hard to tell with tusks? Kind idiot better than cruel genius. Kael should have walked away, should have followed every lesson his father taught him about orc tricks and orc lies, should have remembered the mass graves from the border wars. But he also knew what happened to things left tied up in Shadowpine Forest. The forest didn't care about politics. It just consumed, slowly, methodically. Everything that couldn't escape. Who tied you here? Already a mistake. Questions meant engagement. Engagement meant involvement. My own clan, she said it simply, like reciting a fact. For crime I not commit. And I'm supposed to believe that? No. She looked at him with eyes too aware for what orcs were supposed to be. Too intelligent. Too human. You supposed to leave, is what smart people do. But you ask question instead of walking. That tell me about you, Kael Thornwood. He froze. I didn't tell you my name. Forrest tell me. Old magic here. Very old. It know things, show things. She managed something between a smile and a grimace. It show me you coming 4 days ago. Show me you need medicine for sister. Show me you kind but stubborn. Good traits for what coming. Dangerous traits for staying alive. 4 days. How long have you been here? 8 days. Clan leave me for punishment. 3 more days I be dead. Or worse. She nodded at something near the tree's base. Kael looked down, saw bones, human bones, orc bones, animal bones, all old, all picked clean, all arranged in patterns that made his skin crawl. This is judging place, she said quietly. Ancient orc tradition. Tie accused to heartwood tree. If innocent tree protect. If guilty forest feed. Simple yes. Seems like a system with some serious flaws. Every system have flaws when leaders decide guilt before trials start. There was something around her neck, a pendant catching the strange light, made of wood that looked like stone or stone that looked like wood. It was glowing, faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. That's not normal, Kael said. No, heartwood pendant, made from this tree long ago, supposed to glow when innocent blood shed in false judgment. She looked at it, then at him. It start glowing moment they tie me here. They see it, they tie me anyway, because truth inconvenient, because I witnessed something I not supposed to see, because speaking truth easier to punish than acknowledging it. What did you witness? That question for after you cut me down. She met his eyes. If you cut me down, I not beg, not my way. But I tell you this, you walk away, now you spend rest of life wondering. You cut me down, maybe you regret. Maybe you die for it. But at least you know you chose compassion over fear. At least you know you tried. Kael stood there, knife in hand, every lesson from childhood screaming at him to run. The pendant kept glowing, steady, persistent, true. He'd been taught that orcs were monsters, That mercy shown to them was weakness exploited, that they couldn't be trusted. But he'd also been taught by his mother that character showed clearest when no one was watching, when doing right cost something, when courage meant risking everything for someone who couldn't repay you. His father would have walked away. Survival meant hard choices. His mother would have cut her down. Compassion meant sometimes taking stupid risks. Kyle had always been more like his mother. He stepped forward. The moment his knife touched the first rope, the forest went silent. Not quiet, silent. As if every living thing suddenly held its breath. As if the world itself paused to witness what happened next. The rope parted, then the next, then the next. She collapsed when the last rope fell, caught herself on hands that shook from 8 days of being bound, stayed on her knees for a moment, breathing like someone remembering how. Thank you. Just that, simple, honest, no dramatics, just gratitude in a voice that cracked from disuse. Don't thank me yet. Your clan is going to... The pendant flared, not glowing anymore, blazing with light that had no business coming from carved wood. It lifted from her chest, suspended on nothing, rotating slowly. Then it exploded, not with force, with presence. Light rushed outward in a wave that passed through Kel like ice water and summer sun mixed together. It felt like every nerve in his body woke up, like he'd been asleep his entire life and was just now opening his eyes, like the world had shown him its true face, and that face was beautiful and terrible and so much bigger than he'd ever imagined. When the light faded, the orc girl was standing. The wounds on her wrists and ankles were healed. The pendant still glowed but gently now, peacefully, and Kyle's left hand was marked. Same symbol as carved on the tree, same pulsing light as the pendant, burned into his skin in lines that looked like wood grain, felt warm as living flesh, carried weight he didn't understand but could feel settling into his bones. What did you do? His voice barely worked. I do nothing. She stared at her own hand, marked identically. Tree do this. Old magic. Very old. Older than orc clans. Older than human kingdoms. From time when world different. When forest held a power that make kings kneel. What does it mean? It mean. She looked at him with something like wonder and something like horror. It mean we bound now. Heartwood bond. Can't be broken. Can't be ignored. What you feel, I feel. Where you go, I sense. If you die, she touched the mark. I die. That's insane. Yes, very insane, also very real, also very big problem. Why is it a problem? You're free. I'm marked. We go our separate ways. She laughed, bitter sound. You know nothing of orc culture. Yes, my clan will hunt me. When they find me with human bearing, heartwood mark, they kill us both. Slowly, to send message. Then we don't let them find us. Sweet human optimism. She shook her head. They already know. Moment bond formed every shaman in 100 miles feel it. Magic this old, this strong, it like lighthouse in storm. Everyone see. As if summoned by her words, a horn sounded in the distance. Deep, rhythmic. The kind of sound that traveled miles and meant only one thing. Hunt. That them? Kyle asked. That them? She looked around. We have maybe 1 hour before they reach this place. Maybe less if my father sends scouts ahead. Your father, Garen Ironhide, chief of Shadow Tusk clan, also the one who ordered me tied here. She started walking, purpose in her stride despite 8 days of captivity. Now I have bond with human. Now I am problem he cannot ignore. Wait, Kale hurried after her. She moved fast for someone who should barely be able to stand. Where are we going? Away from here, toward human town called Ashford, 3 days west. How do you know where I'm from? She tapped her temple. Heartwood bond. I feel your memories like echo. I know your sister's sick. I know you here for medicine. I know you kind but stubborn. Good traits. Annoying traits. Very human traits. Kale concentrated, and suddenly he could feel it. Anger. Pain. Determination like iron wrapped in leather. A deep, aching love for someone named Dren. Terror underneath everything. Controlled but constant. This is violating. Yes, welcome to magical bond you create by being noble idiot. She glanced back. My name Thora. Since we bonded for life and probably die together, soon might as well know who you dying with. I'm not planning on dying. Good, me neither. But planning and reality, different things, yes. She kept walking. Now come, talk while we move. Every second here is second. They get closer. The forest seemed to open before them. Paths that hadn't existed suddenly did. Branches that should block their way bent aside. Shadow Pine Forest had apparently chosen a side. As they walked, Thora talked. About the heartwood tree. About magic older than the wars between species. About how the pendant had been passed through the women of her family for 14 generations. Each one chosen by the tree to bear truth, even when truth was dangerous. My grandmother died protecting this pendant, Thora said. Her last words to me, truth is sharp knife. You cut others with it, yes. But first you must be willing to bleed yourself. I not understand then. I understand now. What did you witness? Kale asked. What truth was worth all this? Thora was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried weight that made him understand why her clan had been desperate to silence her. I witnessed my father meeting with human lord. I witnessed them planning border raid together. I witnessed them dividing spoils before blood spilled. I witnessed truth that would shame both our peoples. That some leaders profit from war. That peace would mean their power fade. That every death in the last 3 years could have been prevented if those in power wanted it prevented. Kyle stopped walking. That's impossible. Which part? That humans and orcs both capable of greed, or that some find peace inconvenient? She looked at him. You raised to believe orcs are monsters, but you cut me down anyway. Why? Because you know what they tell you and what is true, not always same thing. The horn sounded again. Closer now. They ran. The next 3 hours became blur of forest and fear. Thora moved with efficiency as someone raised in wilderness. She knew which roots would hold weight, which branches would stay silent, which paths would confuse trackers. There, she pointed to a massive hollow tree. Inside. Now. They squeezed into the space just as voices filtered through the trees. Orc voices speaking their own tongue. Kael couldn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. Hunters discussing prey. Thora's hand found his in the darkness. The marks on their palms pressed together, and suddenly the fear was halved. Shared. Diluted by connection. He could feel her presence in his mind. Not thoughts exactly, but emotions. Intentions. The shape of her awareness. Stay quiet, not words, understanding. He understood. The voices passed. They waited another 10 minutes before Thora deemed it safe to move. They hunting wrong direction, she whispered. Iskra leading them south. She know where I hide usually, but this not usual situation. Iskra. Best tracker in clan, she... Thora's voice caught. She my friend, once, before I speak truth that make me traitor. They emerged into a forest that had shifted. The paths were different. The light had changed. Shadow Pine was helping them, but in ways that made clear they were tolerated, not welcomed. As they walked, Kyle's mind raced. Mira needed medicine. He couldn't return without it. But he also couldn't return with an orc bearing a mystical bond. The town guard would kill her on sight, or try to, and if she died, so did he. I need to gather the herbs, he said, the ones I came for. Silverleaf and Moonshade, Thora said, for your sister. I know. I feel your worry for her. She closed her eyes, accessing memories that weren't hers. Name Mira, 11 years old, hair like wheat, eyes like sky. She liked to draw birds. Stop reading my mind. Is not reading, is knowing. Bonds show me what mattered to you, like I show you what mattered to me. She looked at him. Your sister matter. My brother matter. We both have people we protect. This make us not so different, yes. Your brother, the one who Kale felt it through the bond, young, 14, a boy caught between childhood and warrior trying to prove himself to a father who saw him as disposable as any tool. He's still in your clan. Yes. The pain in that word was profound. And when father learned I escape, when he learned I bond with human, he used Dren to bring me back. Hurt him until I come. Is how he think, is how he always think. Then we can't let him find out. Too late. Thora pointed to the mark on her hand still glowing faintly. Every shaman can sense this. They already know. Father already planning. My brother? She stopped. The emotion through the bond was overwhelming. Pure terror mixed with fury, mixed with love so fierce it hurt. I cannot let him hurt Dren. I cannot. Then we'll get him out. She looked at him like he'd suggested they fly. You meet me 4 hours ago. You owe me nothing. I'm bonded to you, apparently permanently, which means your problems are my problems. Your family is... He stopped, realized what he'd been about to say. Someone I should care about. This is stupid plan. Welcome to stupid plans. I'm apparently good at those. A smile flickered across her face. Real this time. They found the silver leaf growing near a stream that whispered with voices of its own. The moonshade grew in shadow so complete that harvesting it felt like stealing from darkness itself. Thora helped, moving with practiced ease. She knew these plants, knew this forest. You learn this where? Keiko asked, as she carefully extracted a root without damaging the plant. From my grandmother. She was clan healer before she become pendant keeper. She teach me much before she die. Thora wrapped the root carefully. She say knowledge is like seed. Plant it deep, water it with practice. Eventually it grow into tree that gives shelter to others. Sounds like a wise woman. She was. She also knew, Thora's voice softened. She knew speaking truth would make me exile one day. I think she prepared me. I think she knew. They gathered enough for Mira, then extra. Thora insisted, explaining that fever often returned if treatment stopped too soon. We should move through night, Thora said as sun descended. Reach edge of forest by dawn. Then you go to Ashford. She didn't finish. What about your brother? I figure something out, always do. That's not a plan. Is best I have. She looked at him. You have sister to save. I not hold you back from that. Bond not mean you sacrifice everything for me. Doesn't it though? Kale sat on a fallen log. I felt your fear when you thought about your brother. It was like someone crushing my ribs. If you go after him alone, if you die trying, I'm going to know. And that knowledge will haunt me. Not because of the bond, because I could have helped and didn't. You not know my clan. You not know how to fight orcs. Then teach me. She stared at him. This is madness. Seems to be my specialty today. For the first time since he'd cut her down, Thora laughed. Really laughed. It sounded rusty, like something that hadn't been used in years. My grandmother would like you, I think. She always say best warriors are ones who fight with heart first, head second. You very much heart first person. Is that bad? No, but it probably gets you killed. They sat in silence. Around them, shadow pine settled into its evening routine. Birds calling final positions. Small animals rushing to burrows. The forest breathing in preparation for night. Tell me about your brother, Kale said. Why? Because if we're going to get him out, I should know him. She stopped, felt through the bond that he meant it. You serious? Terrifyingly serious. Thora was quiet for a long time. Then Dren is softer than most orc boys. He collect things. Bones, stones, feathers. He give them names. Talk to them. Other warriors mock him. Call him weak. But he not weak. He just gentle. In culture that worships strength, gentle is dangerous thing to be. Sounds like someone who needs protecting. Yes. And the emotion through the bond was raw. I not there to protect him. For 8 days he think I dead. For 8 days he alone with father who not love him. We'll get him, Kale said. Both of them. Your brother, my sister. We'll figure it out. How? No idea, but I'm getting used to making plans up as I go. She shook her head. You very strange human. You're not exactly typical orc yourself. True. She looked at the pendant, still glowing faintly. Typical orc not speak truth. Typical orc not get cast out. Typical orc definitely not bond with human. Lucky for me, you're not typical. Lucky. She tested the word. Interesting choice. They traveled through the night. Thora led, Kael followed, and the forest made way for them both. Shadowpine had accepted what they were. Something new, something that broke rules so old they'd calcified into absolute truth. Human and orc, bonded, allies. It shouldn't exist, but it did. Dawn found them at the forest's edge looking out at farmland that stretched toward Ashford in the distance. The town would be waking soon. Farmers heading to fields, guards changing watch. His sister hopefully still alive. I cannot go there, Thora said quietly. They see me, they kill me. I know. He didn't know what to do. Needed to get medicine to Mira, but leaving Thora felt wrong, felt impossible with the bond pulling at him. You go, she decided. Save your sister, then come back tonight. We plan how to help Dren. You'll be here. Where else I go? She tried to smile. Didn't quite work. I wait, you heal, then we be stupid together. Kael almost left, almost walked away, but something stopped him. What if, he said slowly, there was someone in town who could help, someone who understood old magic? Who'd Brother Aldrich? He's a monk, collects stories about the old world, the time before the wars. Kael remembered conversations with the old man. If anyone would know about the Heartwood bond, it's him. Human holy man will not help orc. He helped me understand Shadowpine wasn't just evil. Helped me see that fear and truth aren't the same thing. Kael met her eyes. Let me try. Please. Thora looked at him for a long moment, then at the pendant, then back. You have 2 hours, she said. Then I assume you captured or dead, and I go get Dren myself. Fair enough. He was almost to the tree line when her voice stopped him. Kael. He turned. Thank you for cutting me down, for not running, for... She touched the mark on her hand, for being stupid enough to care. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell the truth. Then he was running, across fields wet with dew, past farms just starting their day, through streets he'd walked his entire life that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Everything looked the same. Everything was different. He was different. Brother Aldrich was awake. The old monk never seemed to sleep, preferred to spend his nights reading by candlelight in the small room behind the monastery. He looked up when Kael burst through the door. Something in his expression said he'd been expecting this. Show me your hand, was all he said. Kael did. The mark glowed faintly in the candlelight. Heartwood bond, Brother Aldrich breathed. I thought it was legend, a myth from the old times. He looked at Kael with something like wonder. Who did you save? An orc girl. Thora. Most men would have recoiled. Brother Aldrich smiled. Of course you did. Your mother's son, through and through. He stood, moved to a shelf packed with books. Tell me everything. Kael did. The tree, the pendant, the bond, the clan hunting her, the brother who needed saving. As he talked, Aldrich pulled books, cross-referenced passages, nodded at certain details. The Heartwood was planted by the first druids, Aldrich explained. Before humans and orcs were separate peoples. Before the wars. Before we forgot that all blood runs red. He showed Kael a drawing in a book so old the pages crumbled. At edges, the Heartwood bond was their highest honor, given to those who proved themselves capable of loving across all boundaries. It meant you were chosen to heal the world's divisions. That's insane. That's divine. There's a difference. She'll die if I die. I'll die if she dies. That's a curse. Every blessing is a curse if you look at it wrong. Aldrich closed the book. But this bond also means, you'll never be alone. You'll always have someone who understands you completely. That's rare, Kael. That's precious. Her clan is hunting her. Her father wants her dead. There's a brother who's essentially hostage. Then you rescue the brother. Aldrich said it like it was obvious. It's an orc clan. I'm one human. You're one human bonded to an orc who knows every detail of that clan's defenses. You're one human who has Shadowpine on his side. You're one human who just performed a miracle that hasn't been seen in 300 years. Aldrich's eyes were fierce. Don't diminish what you are. I need to get medicine to my sister. I'll take it. Aldrich pulled a satchel from beneath his desk, started packing. I'll tell her you're on a journey. She'll understand. But that orc girl and her brother, they live or die based on what you do next. Kale wanted to argue, wanted to be selfish, but the mark on his hand pulsed warm. And through the bond, he felt Thora waiting, hoping, trying not to hope but unable to stop herself. If I do this, Kale said slowly, what happens after? We can't live here, can't live with her clan. We're bonded but have nowhere to go. Then you make a place where you can be. Aldrich handed him the satchel. The world is larger than this town, Kakel, and it needs people who prove that different doesn't have to mean enemy. He smiled. Now go. You have a very impatient orc waiting. How did you? I'm a monk. We know things. He pushed Kale toward the door. And Kale, when you see your sister, next tell her the dragon she drew is real. Tell her you met it. Tell her it had green skin and chose to trust a stranger. Kale ran back, past guards who didn't stop him because he was just Kale. Familiar, harmless. Past neighbors who waved, past everything known toward everything unknown. Thora was exactly where he'd left her. She looked relieved when she saw him, felt relieved through the bond. Your holy man, she asked, says we're chosen to heal the world's divisions. Heavy responsibility. Terrifying responsibility. Kale sat beside her. But first we rescue your brother. You serious? You really help. I've apparently been chosen by ancient magic to love across boundaries. Seems like I should start practicing. She laughed, then cried, then laughed again. This is stupid plan. Welcome to Stupid Plans, my specialty, remember. They spent the next hours strategizing. Thora drew maps in dirt, explained clan structure, security patterns. The camp was 3 days north. We slipped between scout rotations. Get to camp, find Dren, leave. That simple, that impossible. She looked at him. But we try anyway. They moved through the forest, heading north. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of learning each other's rhythms, of Thora teaching him to move quietly, to read signs, to understand wilderness language. 3 days of him teaching her common phrases, laughing when she got frustrated. Humans talk like they afraid words bite them, she complained. Orcs talk like they're trying to intimidate the alphabet, he shot back. She threw a pine cone at him. By the 3rd day, something had shifted. The bond felt less like intrusion and more like companionship. Natural as breathing. They were becoming something new, something that had no name in either language. The orc camp came into view at dusk. Massive tents from hides and woven grass. Fire pits that could roast whole deer. Training grounds where young warriors practiced. In the center, the chieftain's tent, larger than others, decorated with trophies. Outside stood a boy who looked too small to be a warrior, but was clearly trying anyway. Dren, Thora breathed. He alive. He okay for now. How do we get to him? Wait for night. Scouts change at midnight, maybe 10 minutes between rotations. We go in, grab him, go out. She looked at Kyle. And if we caught you, run. Not a chance, Kale. We succeed together or fail together. That's how bonds work, right? She looked like she wanted to argue, felt like she wanted to through the bond. But she also felt grateful. Loved even. Not romantic love. Something deeper. Chosen family love. You very stubborn human. You're pretty stubborn yourself. Is orc way? Apparently it's our way now. They waited. Sunset, camp settled, songs around fires, stories in rough voices, laughter that sounded too human. Midnight came, scouts rotated. For exactly 9 minutes and 43 seconds, there was a gap. They moved. Thora led, slipping between tents like shadow through shadow. Kael followed, heart hammering. They reached the chieftain's tent. Dren, outside carving wood. A guard nearby, half asleep. Thora made a sound, soft, like a bird call, but not quite. Dren's head snapped up. Eyes went wide. For a terrifying second, Kael thought he'd shout. Then recognition hit. Then joy so pure it hurt to witness. Dren stood, moved toward them. The guard stirred. Thora grabbed her brother, covered his mouth, dragged him into shadows. Kael followed. No shouts, no alarms. Not yet. You alive, Dren whispered. I see pendant glow. I know you alive. But father say you dead. He lie, Thora confirmed. I live. I escape. And now we leave. A horn blared. The camp exploded. Warriors pouring from tents. Weapons drawn. Iskra's voice shouting commands. And above it all, a roar that could only be Garen Ironhide. Run. They ran through camp between tents, past warriors just waking. The forest was ahead. If they could reach the trees, Iskra appeared in their path. She looked at Thora, at Dren, at KL. Go, she said quietly. I not see you. Then she turned, pointed the wrong direction, shouted she'd spotted them heading east. They went west. Shadow pine swallowed them, open paths that closed behind them. They ran until lungs burned, until Dren stumbled and Kale had to carry him, until pursuit sounds faded. They stopped in a clearing, collapsed, breathed like they'd never breathed before. We did it, Kale gasped. An axe buried itself in the tree beside his head. Garen Ironhide stepped into the clearing, alone, massive, made other orcs look small. He looked at Thora with eyes that held no love, nothing but cold calculation. Daughter, no affection in the word. You make this difficult. You murder your brother, you tie me to Heartwood. I do what necessary. Garen's voice was flat. You understand nothing of leadership, of hard choices, of strength required. I understand you profit from war. I understand you meet with human lords. I understand you sacrifice our people for power. Our people. Garon laughed, rocks grinding. You bond with human. You no longer are people. He moved fast, too fast. The axe swung toward Thora. Kale moved faster. Didn't plan it, didn't think. The bond made him move, the need to protect. The axe caught him across the chest, not deep enough to kill immediately, deep enough to matter. Pain exploded. The world tilted. And through the bond, he felt Thora feel what he felt her scream without sound. Garen looked at him with something like respect. Brave, foolish, but brave. He raised the axe again. The heartwood pendant exploded with light. Not figuratively, literally, it tore from Thora's neck, grew to shield size, blocked Garen's strike. The axe shattered against wood that had survived centuries. Now the pendant spoke, not in words, in knowing, in truth that couldn't be denied. It showed Garen's crimes, showed them to everyone, to Dren, to KL, to warriors who had followed Garen into the forest, showed the murdered brother, the meetings with human lords, every lie, every betrayal, every life sacrificed for power. Garen backed away. You did what was convenient, Thora said. Blood ran from her nose. The bond meant she felt KL's wound as her own. And now everyone see, now everyone know. Truth is sharp knife, father, and now it cuts you. The warriors at Clearing's Edge looked at each other, at Garen. Some left, others stayed, but loyalty had cracked. Iskra stepped forward. Challenge. I challenge for chieftain's seat. It was over quickly. Garen fought. Garen lost. Not because he wasn't strong, because strength without honor was just violence. And violence eventually met something stronger. Iskra stood over him. You live in exile. You leave. You not return. Garen looked at Thora one last time. For a moment, Kael thought he saw regret. Then it was gone. You make mistake. Bond with human make you weak. No. Thora held Kael up, their marks glowing in tandem. It make me stronger, because now I know true strength not come from fighting alone, come from choosing who we fight beside. Garen left, walking into forest, becoming smaller, disappearing. Iskra looked at Thora. You not return either. Bond make you outcast. But she pulled something from her belt, carved stone shaped like a hand. This mark of ally. Any orc see this, they give safe passage. Not welcome, but not enemy, is best I can do. Is enough, Thora said. Thank you. They carried Kale back to Ashford. 5 days. 5 days of Thora learning human healing from Brother Aldrich. 5 days of town learning orc who saved one of their own wasn't quite the monster they'd been taught to fear. 5 days of slow, painful recovery. Kael lived. The bond made sure. Thora's strength flowing into him. Mira recovered too. Medicine worked. She'd live. 3 months later, they stood at Shadowpine's edge. Kael, Thora, Dren, and a small group of humans who decided maybe old ways weren't only ways. "This is stupid plan," Thora said. "Welcome to stupid plans," Kael replied. "Our specialty." They were building something new. A settlement. Half human, half orc. Where the Heartwood bond wasn't aberration, but beginning. Where children could grow up knowing different didn't automatically mean enemy. It wouldn't be easy. Change never was. But they had each other. They had the bond. They had proof that bridges could be built. Kael looked at his hand. The mark pulsed, especially when Thora was near, which was almost always. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "That day I cut you down." Thora thought about it. Every day, life was simpler before. Harder, yes, but simpler. She looked at him. "But simple, not always better. You give me choice, you give me chance, you give me reason to believe world can be better. I not regret that. Never regret that." Dren ran past chasing a human boy, both laughing. Both just boys. "My grandmother says something once. Change is like fire. It hurt when it burned. But after burning, new things grow. I think we burn a lot. But look what grow." She was right. The settlement was small. 3 families, planning to be 7 by spring. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Kael touched the mark, then touched Thora's. They glowed in response. Gentle, warm. They stood together, watching the settlement take shape, watching humans and orcs work side by side. Awkward, but trying. Shadowpine whispered behind them, approving maybe, or just watching. Either way, it had given them its blessing by giving them each other. Some victories aren't won on battlefields. They're won in quiet moments. When someone chooses compassion over fear. When someone cuts down a prisoner they're supposed to ignore. When someone decides ancient feuds don't have to be eternal. Blood makes you orc or human, but loyalty, courage, and love, those make you family. And family was all that truly mattered. The first winter in the settlement was harder than anyone expected. Not because of the cold. Cold was predictable. Cold you could prepare for with walls and fire and stored food. The hardness came from the invisible things. The weight of 1,000 years of hatred that didn't disappear just because a few people decided to ignore it. Kael learned this on the morning Marcus Whitfield arrived. Marcus was a farmer from 3 miles south of Ashford. Good man by all accounts. Worked hard. Treated his neighbors fair. Lost his brother to an orc raid 15 years back, but never let it make him cruel. When he heard about the settlement, he'd packed up his family and come to see if the stories were true. He walked into the clearing where Kael and Thora were raising the frame for the 3rd dwelling. Stood there for a full minute just watching. His wife Elena behind him. 2 children clinging to her skirts. "It's real then," Marcus said finally. "Thought it might be a story." "It's real," Kael confirmed. He drove another peg into the ground. "We're building something new here. Place where species doesn't determine worth." Marcus nodded slowly. Watched Thora lift a beam that would have taken 3 humans to move. She positioned it perfectly. Dren held the other end, skinny arms shaking with effort, but face set with determination. "That's an orc," Marcus said. "Not hostile, just stating fact." "That's Thora," Kael corrected gently, "and that's her brother Dren." "They're family." "Family," Marcus tested the word. "My brother John was family. Orcs killed him, burned him alive in his own barn while his wife watched." His voice was steady, factual, but pain lived in every syllable. "You're asking me to live next to the thing that murdered my blood." Kael put down his hammer. This conversation had happened before. Would happen again. Each time it got a little easier and a lot harder. "I'm not asking you to forget," Kael said. "I'm not asking you to pretend it didn't happen. Your brother's death was real. The pain is real, the anger is justified." He gestured to the settlement. "But Thora didn't kill your brother. Some other orc following some other chief's orders did that. Just like some human soldier probably killed Thora's uncle, or Dren's cousin. The cycle doesn't end until someone decides to see individuals instead of species. Pretty words. Marcus looked at his children. Boy and girl, maybe 7 and 9. But what happens when that orc gets angry, when instinct kicks in? What happens to my kids then? Thora had been pretending not to listen. Now she set down her beam and walked over, moving slowly, deliberately, keeping her hands visible. Everything about her body language said not a threat. You lose brother, she said to Marcus. Her comment had improved, but the accent remained. I understand this pain. I lose uncle, cousin, father murder his own brother for power. I know grief, yes. She knelt down, eye level with Marcus's children. They shrank back, but she didn't advance. I also know fear, Thora continued. I see it in your eyes, in your children's eyes. You think I am monster. You raised to believe this. She touched the mark on her hand. But this bond teach me something. Teach me that monster not determined by skin color or tusk size. Monster determined by choices, by actions. She stood, looked at Marcus directly. I cannot give you brother back, cannot undo pain. But I can promise you this, while I breathe no harm come to your children in this place. Not from me, not from any orc I have influence over. This I swear on my grandmother's memory. On Heartwood bond that tie my life to KL's, you want guarantee I not hurt your family. She spread her arms. My life is guarantee. I hurt them, KL die too. And I'd not let KL die. He too stupid and stubborn, and I grow fond of stupid, stubborn humans. Which, despite everything, Marcus almost smiled. Almost. You swear this in whatever orcs hold sacred. On Heartwood itself, on pendant my grandmother died protecting, on bond that make this human my family. Thora's eyes were fierce. I swear. Marcus looked at his wife. Some silent conversation happened. Then Elena stepped forward. We'll stay, she said quietly, for 1 month. Trial, we see how it goes. Fair enough, Cale said. That night, lying in his small dwelling with moonlight streaming through gaps in the walls, Cale felt Thora's presence through the bond. She was on watch. The settlement wasn't large enough yet to need guards, but old habits died hard. She sat by the central fire, keeping it fed, keeping watch over people who still flinched when she moved too fast. You did good today, he projected, through the bond. Not words. Feeling, approval, gratitude. I just speak truth, came her response. Grandmother say truth is foundation. Everything else build on it. Still, you could have been angry, defensive. You chose patience instead. Anger is easy. Patience is hard. Hard things make us stronger. Yes, Cale smiled in the darkness. 3 months ago, Thora had been tied to a tree sentenced to die. Now she was the moral center of a settlement trying to prove peace was possible. Growth happened in strange ways. The winter deepened. More families arrived. Some stayed. Some left after a few days, unable to overcome generations of conditioning. But slowly, steadily, the settlement grew. Jonas Blackwood came with his daughter Emma. Wife had died in childbirth. He was a carpenter, skilled and willing to teach anyone who wanted to learn, including Dren, who took to woodworking like he'd been born to it. Helena Morse arrived alone. Healer. She'd lost her son to the wars and couldn't stomach the idea of more death. She and Thora spent long hours sharing knowledge, human healing and orc field medicine, creating something new from 2 traditions. From the orc side, fewer came. Iskra visited once, brought supplies, looked at what they were building with something between admiration and concern. Garen's exile not sit well with some warriors, she told Thora privately. Kael felt the conversation through the bond. They say you weak, say human corrupted you. They make noise about coming here, making example. Let them come, Thora said. We not hide, we not run. We build something worth protecting. You confident, good, but confidence not stop arrows. Iskra handed her a bundle. Inside weapons. Orc made. You need protect yourself, them. She nodded toward the settlement. I not can help if warriors come, but I can give you tools to fight. After Iskra left, Kael found Thora staring at the weapons. Conflict written across her face. What's wrong, he asked. I leave clan to escape violence, to speak truth instead of swing sword. Now I take up weapons again. She touched a blade. Well made, perfectly balanced. Feel like going backward. You're not taking them up to attack. You're taking them up to protect. Kale sat beside her. There's a difference. Sometimes peace has to be defended. Defended with violence. Defended with the willingness to use violence if necessary. It's not ideal, but we live in a world that isn't ideal yet. Thora picked up the blade, tested the weight. Muscle memory from years of training made her movements fluid, deadly. Then she set it down. We try everything else first, she decided. Words before weapons, truth before force. But if they come, her jaw set. If they threaten family, I fight. I fight until cannot fight anymore. We fight, Kale corrected, together. She looked at him, felt his determination through the bond, smiled despite the heaviness. You terrible fighter. You know this, yes. I'm learning. You're teaching me, remember. I teach you to not die immediately, not same as being good. I'll take not dying immediately as a win. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the settlement was settling for the night. Fires being banked, children being tucked into beds. Normal sounds, peaceful sounds, worth protecting sounds. The attack came on the first day of spring. Kale was teaching a mixed group of human and orc children how to read. It was slow going. Common alphabet made sense to humans, but orcs learned through oral tradition. Their written language was completely different, symbolic rather than phonetic. But the children were trying, human kids helping orc kids sound out letters, orc kids teaching humans the symbols for family strength, honor. That's when the horn sounded, not the settlement's horn. An orc war horn, deep, resonant, the sound that meant battle. Everyone froze. Thora was moving before the sound faded. Children inside. Now, adults who can fight grab weapons, those who cannot protect the young. The settlement transformed. Peaceful community became defensive position in seconds. Everyone had known this day might come. They'd prepared. 6 orcs emerged from the tree line. Warriors, full armor, weapons drawn, led by an orc Kale recognized from Thora's memories through the bond. Ragnar Bloodhand, her father's former champion. The one who'd argued loudest for her execution instead of exile. Thora Ironhide, Ragnar's voice carried across the clearing. I come with message from true warriors of Shadow Tusk clan. You bring shame on orc blood. You corrupt our ways. You weaken our strength with your human-loving poison. Thora stepped forward, alone. Kale moved to follow, but she stopped him with a thought through the bond. Not yet. Let me try words first. Ragnar, she called back. You travel far to speak words you could have sent with messenger. What you really want? Justice, Ragnar spat. You betray clan, betray blood. Bond yourself to human like some kind of... He used an orc word that didn't translate but came through the bond as something deeply insulting. Now you build this place, this mockery, where orcs and humans pretend to be equal. It's perversion, it's weakness, and it ends today. You came to kill me. I came to give you choice. Renounce the bond, renounce this place, return to proper orc ways. Do this, and you live in exile. Refuse. He gestured to his warriors. We burn this place. Kill everyone who resist. Show the world what happens to traitors. Through the bond, Kale felt Thora's rage. Controlled but burning. Felt her calculating odds. 6 trained warriors versus their smaller force. Not good, but not hopeless. I have different proposal, Thora said. You leave Twain. Now, tell whoever sent you that this place is under Heartwood protection. That bond makes me stronger, not weaker. That you saw strength here worth respecting. Ragnar laughed. You think I fear ancient magic? I fear nothing but weakness. And you reek of it. Then prove it. Thora drew the blade Iskra had given her. Single combat. You win, we disband. I win, you leave and never return. Orc way. Honorable combat. Unless you afraid to face weak, human, corrupted orc. Ragnar's face darkened. The insult landed. In orc culture, refusing a direct challenge meant acknowledging the challenger as superior. Single combat, he agreed, When I kill you, human dies too. Yes, bond makes you both weak. When I kill you, your warriors leave. That is deal. They moved to the center of the clearing. KL wanted to intervene, wanted to fight beside her. But he understood. This had to be orc against orc. Had to be settled in orc terms. Through the bond, he could feel everything. Her focus narrowing, her breathing steadying, her muscles remembering years of training, and underneath it all, her fear. Not of dying, of failing. Of this place burning because she wasn't strong enough. You're strong enough, he projected. You're the strongest person I know. I hope you right, came her response. Because if you wrong, we both die. And I have so much still to teach you. Like how to actually swing sword instead of flailing like confused chicken. Despite everything, Kale almost laughed. Even facing death, she found time to insult his fighting skills. The combat began. Ragnar was bigger, stronger, more experienced. He'd been champion for a reason. His blade moved like extension of his arm. Each strike was calculated to kill, but Thora was faster, smarter, and she fought with something Ragnar didn't have. Something to protect beyond her own pride. She parried his first strike, dodged the second. The third caught her shoulder, but she rolled with it, using momentum to create distance. They circled, both breathing hard, both looking for openings. You're slow, Ragnar taunted. Soft, human weakness infects you. I'm efficient, Thora countered. Why waste energy on boasting when can use for fighting? She attacked. 3 quick strikes that forced Ragnar back. He blocked, but barely. His eyes widened. She was better than he expected. The fight lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes of blade against blade, of strength against speed, of old ways against new. Kael felt every hit through the bond, every near miss, every moment of pain. It was agony, watching, feeling, unable to help. The humans and orcs in the settlement watched in silence. This wasn't just a fight. It was a symbol, proof that the old ways could be challenged. That strength came in forms beyond brutality. Ragnar landed a solid hit. His blade cut deep into Thora's side. She gasped, staggered. Through the bond, Kale felt the pain explode, felt his own side burning, even though he wasn't wounded. The bond meant her pain was his pain. It also meant his strength was her strength. Get up, he projected with every ounce of will he had. You're not done. We're not done. Get up, Thora's eyes found his across the clearing. In them he saw determination, love, fury at the idea of failing the people who trusted her. She surged forward, wounded, bleeding, but moving with purpose. Her blade found Ragnar's throat. The big orc froze, his weapon fell from nerveless fingers. Yield, Thora said, voice hard, or die, your choice. For a long moment, Ragnar just stood there. Then slowly, deliberately, he knelt. I yield. The warriors behind him stirred. One moved like he might attack anyway, but Ragnar raised his hand. We gave oath. Single combat. She won. He looked at Thora with something that might have been respect. You not weak, you different. Maybe different, not same as weak. He stood, gestured to his warriors. They began backing away. Tell the others, Ragnar said. Tell them Thora Ironhide still has honor, still has strength, just uses them for different purpose. He touched his throat where her blade had been. Tell them Heartwood bond makes her dangerous, not weak. They left. Thora collapsed the moment they were out of sight. Kale was there, catching her, feeling her pain like it was his own because it was his own. Helena rushed over. Get her inside, now, that wound is deep. They carried her to the healing house. Helena worked with efficiency born from years of practice. Cleaned the wound, stitched it, applied herbs that Thora herself had taught her to use. Kale sat beside the bed holding Thora's hand, their marks pressed together, glowing faintly. You won, he said. We won, she corrected, voice weak but determined. I feel your strength, through bond, kept me standing when I should have fallen. She squeezed his hand. We win together, always together. Always together, he agreed. She fell asleep, or unconscious. Hard to tell, but her breathing was steady. She'd live. Kale sat there for hours, feeling her presence through the bond, feeling the settlement around them, feeling the weight of what they were trying to build. Marcus Whitfield found him there. She saved us, Marcus said quietly. All of us. Risked her life for humans and orcs both. He was silent for a moment. My brother John would have called me a fool for being here, for trusting orcs. But watching that fight, he shook his head. That wasn't monster. That was a person protecting her family. Same as John did when orcs came for his farm. Same as any of us would do, Kale said. Yeah. Marcus looked at Thora's sleeping form. My kids are teaching me orc symbols. Emma learned the one for courage today. Asked me what human symbol means same thing. I told her there isn't one, that humans use words for courage. She asked why we need different ways to say same thing. He smiled. Kids understand faster than adults. Guess that's the point, isn't it? Teach the next generation different. Let them grow up knowing peace is possible. That's the hope. Marcus nodded, turned to leave, stopped. For what it's worth, he said. I'm glad you cut her down that day. Glad you were stupid enough to care. After he left, Kale felt Thora's consciousness stir in his mind. He said, I saved them, she murmured through the bond. You did. We did. A pause. This is what we build in Yes Place, where people see actions instead of assumptions, where courage recognized regardless of skin color. Yes, good. Her presence settled back into sleep. Is worth bleeding for, worth living for, worth everything. Kael sat with her through the night, and through the bondoin he felt the settlement sleeping around them. Humans and orcs, children and elders, all breathing the same air, all dreaming the same dreams, all proof that the world could change. One day, one person, one choice at a time. Spring turned to summer. The settlement grew. More families, more dwellings, more integration. The children created their own language, mixing common and orcish until something new emerged, something that belonged to neither culture in both. They called it heartspeak. Adults struggled with it, but the children spoke it fluently. Dren became the settlement's best carpenter. His gentle nature and attention to detail made him perfect for the work. He crafted furniture that combined human aesthetics with orc durability. People from surrounding areas began commissioning pieces. The settlement's first export, Jonas Blackwood and an orc craftswoman named Greta started a forge together. Human precision and orc strength creating tools better than either could make alone. Helena trained apprentices. Human and orc learning healing together, sharing knowledge, creating new techniques. The settlement found its rhythm. Not perfect. Arguments still happened. Misunderstandings were common. Cultural differences caused friction, but they worked through it. Kale and Thora became the settlement's mediators. When humans and orcs clashed, they stepped in. Not to take sides, to find solutions. They were uniquely suited for it. The bond meant they understood both perspectives, felt both frustrations, could find common ground because they lived in common ground every day. One evening, sitting by the central fire with the settlement settling around them, Thora said, You know what I learned? What peace is not absence of conflict, is learning to resolve conflict without violence, is choosing to see person instead of enemy, is deciding that connection stronger than division. She looked at the mark on her hand. Heartwood bond teach me this. Force me to feel what you feel. See what you see. Understand that human pain and orc pain, not different. Just pain. Sounds like wisdom, Kale said. Sounds like grandmother, Thora corrected. She says something to me once. Say truth you speak will cost you everything, but silence will cost you more. I not understand then. I understand now. She gestured to the settlement. I speak truth, lose clan, lose father, lose everything I know, but I gain this, gain family who choose me, gain purpose beyond following orders, gain you. She looked at him, really looked at him. I gain stupid, stubborn human who decide orc tied to tree worth saving, who decide ancient hatred not stronger than compassion, who prove that one person's choice can change everything. I just did what felt right. Exactly. She smiled. What feel right, not always what is easy, but is always what is necessary. They sat in silence. The fire crackled. Around them, the settlement breathed. Somewhere a child laughed. Human or orc, impossible to tell, and that Kale thought was the whole point. Part 3, The Proving. The messenger arrived at dawn on the first day of autumn. He was young, human, barely 20, wore the colors of Lord Aldrich Ravenswood, the regional governor whose territory included Ashford and the surrounding lands. He looked terrified. Kale met him at the settlement's edge, Thora beside him. The young man's eyes went wide when he saw her, hand instinctively moving toward a sword he wasn't carrying. Peace, Kale said gently. You're safe here. What message do you bring? The messenger swallowed hard. Lord Ravenswood requests the presence of Kale Thornwood and the orc. He caught himself. And Thora Ironhide, at Ravenskeep, 3 days hence, to discuss the settlement. Discuss, Thora's eyes narrowed. Or demand we disband. I, I don't know. I just carry messages. Tell Lord Ravenswood we'll be there, Kale said. After the messenger left, Thora turned to him. This is trap. Obvious trap. Maybe, but we can't ignore it. Ravenswood is the law here. If he decides we're illegal, he can send soldiers. Lots of soldiers. We fought 6 orcs. We can fight human soldiers. We won against 6 orcs barely, and only because you're exceptional. Against a real military force, Kale shook his head. We'd lose. The settlement would burn. Everyone here would die or scatter. Everything we've built would end. Through the bond, he felt her frustration, her anger at having to bow to authority she didn't recognize, her fear that this was the end of everything. So we go, she said bitterly, bow to human lord, beg for permission to exist. We go and we negotiate. We show him what we've built. We prove that this work, Kale touched her shoulder. We use truth as a weapon like your grandmother taught you. Truth not always sharp enough against power. Then we make it sharp enough. They left the next morning, just the 2 of them. Dren wanted to come, but Thora refused. If this was a trap, better to walk into it without risking him. The journey to Ravenskeep took 2 days, through farmland that grew increasingly nervous as news of their passing spread. Humans stared, whispered, pointed. An orc and a human traveling together was still rare enough to be remarkable. Feel like animal in cage, Thora muttered as they passed through a small village. Everyone looking, everyone judging. Let them look, let them judge. They see us walking together. Not fighting, not hating, just existing. That's the first step. First step to what? To them realizing we're not monsters, just people. Ravenskeep loomed ahead, castle built during the last war, all stone and steel and defensive positions, built to withstand siege, built to project power. They were stopped at the gate. No orcs allowed in the keep, the guard captain said. Lord's orders. Then Lord Ravenswood doesn't get his meeting, Kale replied. We come together or not at all. The captain hesitated, sent a runner. 10 minutes later, the runner returned with permission. They were escorted through corridors lined with portraits of Ravenswood ancestors, all in military dress, all looking stern, all having fought orcs at some point. Lord Aldrich Ravenswood waited in his study. He was older than Kale expected, maybe 60, gray hair, sharp eyes, the kind of man who'd seen too much war to be impressed by threats, but too much death to seek more of it unnecessarily. Kale Thornwood, he said, voice measured, and Thora Ironhide, the pair who've caused quite a stir. We've built a settlement, Kale said. We're not causing trouble. Aren't you, though? Ravenswood gestured to chairs. Sit, please. I'm too old to conduct important conversations standing. They sat. Thora looked uncomfortable. Human furniture wasn't built for orc proportions. I've received reports, Ravenswood continued, about your settlement. Mixed population, humans and orcs living together. Training children in both languages, creating what some call a dangerous precedent. He steepled his fingers. Do you know how many complaints I've received in the past 6 months? Many, Kale guessed, 143, from humans who think you're betraying your species, from village councils who worry the orcs will turn on you, from merchants who fear trade disruption. Ravenswood paused. Do you know how many I've received supporting you? Less at 12, most from people who've actually visited, who've seen what you're building. But 12 voices don't outweigh 143 in matters of public policy. So you bring us here to disband settlement, Thora asked, to tell us that fear louder than truth. Ravenswood looked at her, really looked at her. I brought you here to understand what you are, what you represent, and what that means for the fragile peace we've maintained. He stood, walked to a window overlooking the castle grounds. 20 years ago, I fought in the border wars, commanded a regiment, lost half my men to orc raiders, including my son. He was 19, idealistic, believed in honor and glory. Ravenswood's voice was flat. Orcs killed him, slowly, to send a message. Through the bond, Kale felt Thora tense, expecting judgment, expecting hatred. But Ravenswood continued. I hated orcs after that. Hated them with everything I had. Spent 5 years hunting orc war parties. Killed dozens, maybe hundreds. I was very good at it. He turned back to them. You know what I learned? What Kale asked? That for every orc I killed, another human lost a father, a brother, a son, and somewhere an orc family mourned. And that orc's clan would send raiders to avenge them. And more humans would die. And more orcs. The cycle didn't end. It just spun faster. He sat back down. So I stopped. Became a lord instead of a soldier. Focused on building instead of destroying. And I've kept a fragile peace for 15 years. Not because humans and orcs love each other. Because we're all too tired to keep killing. Then why oppose what we building, Thor asked. We create real peace, not just exhaustion. Because fragile peace is still peace, and what you're building threatens it. Ravenswood pulled out a map, pointed to their settlement. You're here on the border between human and orc territories. You're visible. You're provocative. You're a symbol that can be interpreted multiple ways. He pointed to other locations. Orc clans here and here see you as weakness, as corruption of their ways. They want to destroy you to prove strength. Human villages here and here see you as betrayal, as humans going soft. They want you gone to prove loyalty. He looked at them. You're not just building a settlement. You're forcing everyone around you to choose sides. Peace faction or war faction. And that choice will reignite conflicts I've spent 15 years suppressing. Kyle felt his heart sink. So what are you saying? I'm saying you have 3 choices. Ravenswood held up fingers. 1, disband. Go your separate ways. Preserve the status quo. 2, continue as you are and accept that you'll become a battlefield. Both sides will come for you. Many will die. 3, he paused. You grow fast, large enough that destroying you becomes too costly. You become a power unto yourself, not human, not orc, something new that demands respect through strength. How we do that, Thora asked, carefully and with my help. They both stared. You'd help us, Kale asked. I'd invest in you. Ravenswood corrected. I'm an old man. I've kept peace through careful balance. But I see the future. The young soldiers on both sides are angrier than my generation, hungrier for glory. The peace won't last. In 5 years, maybe 10, the wars will restart, unless, he looked at them, unless there's a third option, unless your settlement proves that mixing is possible, that peace can be built instead of just negotiated. What do you want in return? Kale asked. No one helped for free, especially not lords. Proof, I want your settlement to succeed. I want it to grow. I want it to become so successful that the warmongers can't dismiss it. So undeniable that people see it as the future instead of an aberration. Ravenswood smiled slightly. And I want to be remembered as the lord who supported it. When the history books write about this period, I want them to say, Aldrich Ravenswood chose the future instead of the past. Legacy, Thora said. Exactly, I'm too old for more war. But I'm not too old to help build something that prevents the next one. He pulled out documents. I can offer official recognition, protection under my authority, land rights, trade agreements. But, his voice hardened, you need to prove it works. You need more people, more integration. You need to become undeniable. Can you do that? Kale looked at Thora. Through the bond, they had an entire conversation in seconds. Risk, opportunity, hope, fear, determination. We can do that, Kale said. Good. Ravenswood signed the documents. Then you have my support and my expectations. Don't make me regret this. They left Raven's Keep with official papers and impossible pressure. The ride back was quiet. Finally, Thora said, "He right, yes, we make people choose. We force confrontation. We're not forcing anything, we're just existing. It's the people who can't accept us who are forcing confrontation. Result same, people will come for us, from both sides. Then we prepare, we grow, we become strong enough that coming for us is suicide." KL looked at her. "We do exactly what Ravenswood said. We become undeniable." "How?" "Same way we've been doing. One person at a time, one family at a time, one day at a time." He smiled. "We're good at stupid plans, remember? The stupidest plan yet. Then it's right up our alley." They returned to find the settlement buzzing with energy. Word had spread about Ravenswood's recognition. People were celebrating, planning, expanding. But not everyone was happy. A group of orcs had arrived while they were gone. Not warriors, outcasts, exiles like Thora. But unlike her, they'd been cast out for actual crimes. Kael found them in the center of the settlement arguing with Dren. "This place for orcs," the leader was saying. "Big, scarred. Name was Vrak. Not humans. You corrupt what could be pure orc sanctuary." "This place for everyone," Dren replied. His voice was steady despite facing someone twice his size. "Human orc, anyone who want peace." "Peace is weakness," Vrak spat. "We come here to escape human oppression, not to live with them." "Then you come to wrong place," Thora said. She'd arrived silently, now stood behind Vrak. "This place not orc sanctuary, not human refuge, is something new. You want pure orc ways, go back to clan. We exiled, like you. I exiled for speaking truth. You exiled for—" She looked at him, read his scars, his bearing, for killing clanmate in unauthorized challenge, for stealing, for breaking oath. She stepped closer. "I know your type. You not want sanctuary. You want to be strong without earning it." Vrak's hand went to his weapon. "You judge me. I know you, and I tell you simple truth. You follow rules here, you stay. You make trouble, you leave. Your choice, Arturs. You think you can make me leave, you and what warriors?" The settlement had gathered, humans and orcs both. They didn't speak, just stood together, a wall of unity. "Me and them," Thora said simply. "Me and every person in here who believe in what we building. You want fight, you fight all of us. Good luck." Vrak looked around, saw he was outnumbered. More importantly, saw he was outnumbered by a force he didn't understand. Mixed species united by choice instead of blood. "This not orc way," he said. "Nope, I am." Thora agreed, "B. Is our way, new way, better way. You want to learn it, stay. You want to cling to old ways, leave." Vrak and his group left. After they were gone, Marcus Whitfield approached. "That could have been bad," Thora corrected. "But we handle it. Together." "Together," Marcus agreed. He looked at the mixed crowd dispersing. 6 months ago, I couldn't imagine standing beside orcs. Now I can't imagine not having them here. Funny how fast normal changes. That night, Kael and Thora sat on the hill overlooking the settlement. Lights from dwellings made the darkness warm. Sounds of evening routines drifted up. Laughter, conversation, life. "Ravenswood right," Thora said. "We forcing change, making people uncomfortable, creating friction. Worth it though? Ask me in 10 years. She smiled. "If we survive that long." "We'll survive. We're too stubborn to do otherwise." Stubborn, yes. That word people use when they mean stupid but too polite to say so. Kael laughed. Thora joined him. And for a moment, the weight of everything they were trying to accomplish lifted. They were just two people, bonded by magic, held together by choice, building something impossible. And somehow, against all odds, it was working. The seasons turned, the settlement grew. Within a year, they had 50 families, humans and orcs in equal measure. Children growing up speaking heartspeak, elders teaching mixed groups, traditions blending. They built a school, a real one, where human and orc children learned together, where Dren taught carpentry, where Helena taught healing, where knowledge flowed freely across species lines. They built a council, mixed representation, decisions made together, disputes settled through dialogue. They built defenses, not to attack, to protect what they'd created. And slowly, grudgingly, the world began to notice. Other settlements started forming, smaller ones, inspired by what Kyle and Thora had proved possible. Not many, but enough. The tide was turning, not fast. Change never happened fast, but it was happening. On the 2-year anniversary of the day Kyle cut Thora down from the heartwood tree, the settlement gathered for celebration. Humans and orcs together, cooking food from both traditions, singing songs in both languages, dancing to rhythms that mixed drums and flutes. Mira was there, healthy, happy. She'd taken to drawing the settlement. Her pictures showed a future where species differences were as unremarkable as hair color. Duran had grown. No longer the scared boy Kael had carried through the forest, now a young man, confident, kind, teaching other exiles that gentle wasn't the same as weak. Brother Aldrich had traveled from Ashford. He sat with Thora's grandmother's pendant, studying the runes, documenting them, preserving knowledge for future generations. Lord Ravenswood had sent a gift, official declaration of the settlement as neutral territory, protected under his authority, and a letter that simply said, "You've earned it." As the celebration continued, Kael found Thora on their usual hill, watching, feeling through the bond, her pride and her fear and her hope all mixed together. "You thinking too loud," he said, using her old phrase. "Hard not to. Look what we build." She gestured to the settlement. "2 years ago I tied to tree, waiting to die. Now I help lead community of 100 people. Life strange, yes. Very strange, also very good. Good, yes, but also fragile. One attack, one tragedy, one leader who decides this too dangerous, and it all ends. Then we make sure it doesn't end. We make it strong enough to survive." Kyle sat beside her. "We've done the impossible already. We've proved peace is possible. Everything else is just details. Details like defending against war parties. Details like proving we worth protecting. Details like ensuring next generation grows up better than we did. Exactly those details. The easy stuff." She laughed. That rusty sound that had become familiar. Warm. Home. "You know what grandmother say to me?" Thora asked. "Last thing before she die." "What?" "She say find the human who cut you down. The one who see orc and think person instead of enemy. That one worth dying for. Worth living for. Worth everything." Thora looked at him. "I think she see this coming. I think Heartwood show her future. Show her you. You think the tree planned this. I think magic older than us all had purpose. I think it choose us for reason. I think," she touched the mark on her hand, "I think we not done yet. This just beginning. Then let's make it a good beginning. One worth continuing." They sat in silence. The celebration continued below. Music and laughter and the sound of a future being born. Somewhere in the distance, Shadow Pine Forest whispered, the old magic approving, or watching, or both. The Heartwood had chosen its champions, had bound them together, had given them the power to change the world. Now it was up to them to use that power wisely. Years from now, the history books would tell this story, would talk about the settlement that started at the edge of Shadow Pine Forest, would document the first place where humans and orcs lived as equals. They'd call it the First Concord, the beginning of the Peace Age. They'd tell stories about Kyle Thornwood, who cut down an enemy and found family, about Thora Ironhide, who spoke truth when lies were easier, about the Heartwood bond that proved love was stronger than hate. But those stories would come later. Tonight they just sat together, two people who'd been chosen by fate and had chosen each other in return. Two people who'd taken the world's oldest hatred and turned it into its newest hope. Two people proving that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to hate someone you are supposed to hate. Blood makes you orc or human. But courage, compassion, and choice, those make you family. And family, in the end, was all that truly mattered. The Heartwood had known this all along. Now the world was learning it too. One day, one person, one choice at a time, The future was being built, and it looked beautiful.